So I've been going back over this Matt 24, Luke 17 with Noah and the ark, and I've taken it a step further with the information that was given to me. And so I had a problem, and I'm still seeing a problem in Matthew, which unfortunately is not as ambiguous as Luke. Luke, referring to the flood came and destroyed them all. And then Luke goes on to say, in Sodom and Gomorrah, fire came down from heaven and they were all destroyed. So it's very clear. In Matthew, it's not so clear. And they're using the same words in the style that Matthew's writes in. It's a little more confusing about exactly what he's talking about. Bart Ehrman and Peter Brown contend that the word being used means to lift, and the lift are the people. And I looked at that a lot closer, and in all honesty, I think it could be either or. There's nothing that really points to, like in Luke, that the flood came and killed the people, took them away. There's nothing that's saying that outright. So I think it could be at a point where it's 50-50. They could be in Matthew 24:37. For the coming of the Son of Man would just be like the days of Noah. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. So they're telling a story, and all of a sudden they go to Noah entered the ark. And they did not understand, because we know Noah understood what was going on. He knew that a flood was coming and he needed to build this ark. But the people had no idea. So they did not understand. So you go back to the people until the flood came, and here it says, and took them all away. Now, really what it says in the Greek is, until the flood came, Noah entered the ark, and they did not know until the flood, the cataclysmos. And here it says, and lifted them all. It doesn't say anything about taking away. That's not how Aaron is used. It just says flood and lifted them all. Or lifted all, basically. And lifted all. So that's what it says. It doesn't say it took them away. It doesn't say it moved anything. It just said lifted them. The only reason I contend, or what I see the problem here is with this word and what Bart Ehrman and Peter Brown are saying is something is being lifted up off the ground. The mechanism is water. The only reason I believe it could be more the ark. They did not understand until the flood came and took them, lifted them, is because of Genesis. It describes the ark, but here they put an ep on top of it, which means on. So in Genesis, what's being described as the flood's coming, it's filling up, and it's lifting up the ark. The water is lifting up the ark and carrying it off. Okay. Here in Matthew, they're using the same exact word without the ep. So it's not upon. It's just the water came and lifted them. That could be the people, which is what Bart Ehrman contends, or it could be the ark. And the only reason I can't let this go is because of the way it's written in Genesis. It's written in a way that defines, it actually talks about the ark being lifted up on top of the water. Here it's just being lifted up. So I think it could be a 50-50 thing here. I don't think, just like the rest of the Bible, you can't just say, oh, well, it says it in Luke, so it says it here. You never want to do that with anything at all, ever. Don't ever take for granted anything that says, well, if it says it over here, it says it over here. If they use this word in this way, that's how it's used all the rest of it. So I think that's a very, very big problem. It could be true, but you can't just assume anything. You never want to assume anything in the Bible. You just want to read it and try to understand it as best as you can, like I'm trying to here. So I think it's possible that in Matthew 24, 39, and they did not understand until the flood came, talking about the people that were about ready to die, and took them all away, as it's written in our modern Bibles. But actually, it's until the flood came and lifted all. It could be talking about the people. It could be talking about Noah and the ark. And that lifting, like in Genesis 7, it could be talking about the ark being lifted. Mostly when people die, like I've done drown proofing before, you don't start floating. When you drown, you basically are buoyant or you start sinking. The only time you start to become buoyant is when gases in your body start creating basically something that buoys you up. And that usually happens when in warmer water. So when it's cold, throw a body in the river, it's going to stay there. When it starts to get warm, this gas starts to happen. It's like taking something out of the refrigerator, and that's when the bodies float up. So it's not described in any way of the water doing anything to anybody, any animal, any human being in Genesis. It's not described. The only thing that's described is the ark being lifted up and taken away. That's it. Here, it could be the people. I think it could also be the ark that they're talking about here. Now, when you continue to go into chapter 40, to finish with 39, he says, and they did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, verse 40, then there will be 2 men in the field. One will be taken and one will be left. Now, I still contend that parlambantanai in Matthew 24 is lima is parlambano, which means beside gotten. So when they use it in terms of you have received the good news, you have received the Gospels. We gave it to you, and you took it here, and you took it. Here, it's kind of the same thing, but it's more describing the person will be received. Okay, that individual will be received. This is basically a summary towards the end of what's happening, because Jesus already said when this is going to happen, I'm not sure. But he's warning people to stay alert. He's telling people, look, you need to be vigilant, and you need to be looking for what? The desolating sacrilege, the abomination of desolation in Daniel. We know in Luke, he describes it as the Roman army. So, in Noah's time, God told Noah to build the ark. In Lot's time, angels came, told Lot, you need to get your stuff and you need to get out. I can't destroy this place while you're here. So there's 2 references Jesus is making when telling the story. And this is basically a summary. When in Noah's time, everything was good. Then the flood came and they all died, according to Luke. Then he moves on. In Lot's time, everything was fine. Then fire and brimstone came and they all died. Just like what's going to happen here in Jerusalem. Everything was fine. Then the Roman army came, as it turned out to be, and the city was destroyed. Not everybody died in this case. So in Noah's time, God told him, we have the angels and for Lot. Now for here, we have Jesus himself having people convey the message. Look for the desolating sacrilege. That will be the day that the Son of Man is revealed. When you see this, you need to run. That's the sign. And the mechanism is to leave. You don't have an ark. It's just like Lot. You gotta book it. But they're not waiting for you. Like the angels. The angels were pleading with them. They're talking, oh, I want to go somewhere else. Not this time. When you see that Roman army, you better run. Don't even grab your coat. Get out. And that's what they do. They left the city, the ones that knew better. But the other ones did not, like in Noah time, going back to Matthew, they did not understand until the flood came and took them away. Now, it could be destroyed them or took away the ark. The Roman army came in and they eventually destroyed everybody and everything, not every single person. So you can make those connections depending on which way you think it's going. I think both ways could work. But the people that are taken, it's not taken, it's received. So they will leave the city and eventually be received. It's a summary because you have two groups of people working in the field, grinding grain, or sleeping in a bed. And what happens to them? Well, one person will be received, accepted, taken, and one will be left. And when they say left where, it'd be great if he said, left where, Lord, or taken where, Lord. No, it doesn't say that. It just says, where, Lord. So it's still very obscure exactly who's going to be left and what happens to them, and who's going to be taken and what happens to them. There's definitely nothing in these verses that conveys any kind of parousia. There's no harpazo, which means snatch. If you look when Jesus was arrested and the type of words that they use where they took a hold of Jesus, there's nothing like that. There's no mechanism that's actually taking a hold of either people, taken or left in this story. So the only thing that's happening here is people are told ahead of time. They're told to be vigilant and watch. And when they see that sign, they're to run. Those people are out of the picture now. The people that are still inside Jerusalem are going to be destroyed. I believe those are the people that are left. Because of the word left means, when you have your sins forgiven, like Jesus did with the lady who anointed his feet that had many sins. He's like, your sins have forgiven you. Your sins have been forgiven you. So that means they've been cast off. They've been dismissed. They're removed from you. This word has many different uses to be. When you use this word, and in Luke it's aphiemi. It's actually not correct. It's actually aphiemi in Matthew, which is a present tense. So aphiemi can be used for lots of different words, but here it seems that it's more or less being used for something that's saying they're left. They're deserted there. They're rejected almost. So one is taken, one is brought to, and the other one is left, pushed away. Okay? And that's the only reason why I came to this conclusion, because the words kind of have more of that meaning. So when you tie everything in together, they did not understand until the flood came and took them all, or lifted them all. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. There will be two men in one field. One will be taken, and one will be left. One will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, and one will be left. Just like Noah, because at this point, there's no separation. Who's going to be saved from this disaster and who's not? Well, the people that see the sign, the people that run away, they're the ones that are saved. So you could for the people that disagree, you can this is kind of one of those great verses where you can actually come together and say, you know what, it's probably 50-50. You could be right and I could be right based on what it says. Are you team taken or are you team left? A lot of these people will say that this is judgment coming upon people and the judgment will take them. That's not correct at all, because it's just not saying that. It's not. It's a nice secondary thought. Yes, it is true, but that's not what's being said here. What's being said here is Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, just like it was in Noah and just like it was in the time of Lot. Okay, it's going to be destroyed. Everything was fine. The Roman army came, or the Roman army will come, and will destroy the place. Okay, you know ahead of time. Now that the people that have been told, know ahead of time that this place is going to be destroyed. When you see the abomination of desolation, you run away, you get out of the city, and you don't go back in. And out of these groups of people, it's a summary. There'll be two people. There'll be two kinds of people. One will be killed, and one will live. And then we have this very cryptic in Luke 17 towards the end. It says, they say, "Where, Lord?" And then Jesus says, "Where the bodies are, there the vultures will be, where the birds will be." They'll be eating their flesh, they'll be eating their corpse. But we know that the people that left will be saved. They don't have an ark, but they have their own 2 feet, and they have the ability to ascertain the situation that's unfolding in front of them. And then they remember, oh, that's the abomination of desolation. What was I supposed to do again? Oh yeah, run. Let me go get my coat. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to do that either. It's all here. If you take, it's only in Matthew and Luke, but if you put them side by side and read them, I think you'll come to the same conclusion. And these Greek words and the way they're used are vastly different. And I'm not surprised, because these modern languages and churches, they love to just manipulate people and change the stories around. They do it so many times, it's insane. You can say take them, but nothing is taking anyone anywhere. They are running out on their own when they see the sign. So no one's touching them. What's being done here is they will be received. They will be beside gotten. They will. Christ will come, and if it's actually Christ in the end, during his parousia, which could be at night. I think this also is saying these events happen, let's say in the morning. You're out in the field, it happens. Someone who knows better sees the abomination of desolation. They run out, they get past the lines, and they start running towards the hill, like it says. And then in Luke, it talks about there'll be 2 people in bed. So that's what I think is actually that night. I think what Luke 17:34, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's more or less saying, I tell you, because it's saying during the day this will happen, but then on that night, basically they ran out of the city. Maybe they grabbed their brother or their brother-in-law and said, "Hey, we got to go. We got to run. What are you talking about? Just run. We got to get out of here. We're all going to die." And he just comes along. So you have 2 of these people that were in the field, let's just say, but the other one's not a believer. The other one was just next to a believer who said, "Hey, we got to run." And then the Roman army came. But here it says 2 will be in one bed. One will be taken, the other left. And again, they're kind of giving this wrap up. They're saying you got 2 groups of people in the time of Jerusalem, in the time of the Son, during the time of the Son of Man. One will be received, and one will be left. And that's basically what's happening here. So there's a lot of information in here being thrown at you, and there's references, and it is quite vague, especially when you get into Matthew. He doesn't have the Sodom and Gomorrah part, and you get into it, it's termed a little differently. And you get to that one part in Matthew where they say, and they did not know until the flood came and lifted them all. And that's tough, because here they say, and took them all away. So they've changed it. They've changed the words. They've added words to make it seem like something else is something else is happening here, which it's not. It's just either the people were taken away or the ark was taken away. But the people that died didn't know. Just like the people that would probably die inside Jerusalem, they didn't know what was going on either. They had no idea, because the Roman army apparently just came out of nowhere. They surrounded the city and they started their siege. Here, they had no idea until the people ran out. But you can also say they had no idea until the water came and took them all away. The people that are inside Jerusalem, you can also say they had no idea what was going on either until the Roman army came and started killing people. I don't think that would change 40 and 41, because at 40 and 41 in Matthew 24, he's basically just saying, look, there's two groups of people. People grinding, people working in the field, people sleeping, no different. But one will be saved, one will be accepted, one will be received, and the other one will not. The other one will be left, cast off. And that's what's going on here. And I think in 40 and 41 in Matthew, this taken is actually received, and it pushes it, just like, in chapter 39. This little bit of information, when you look at everything, it's kind of a 50-50 thing. But the only reason I take these sides and look at the way is because of the language and because of the narratives that's being described in these chapters and in the Old Testament. You have the ark is being lifted up. It's the same word without the ep. And here, when you have taken is really received and the other one is left, it pushes it more towards that way. But again, we don't really know for sure. And I think the most important thing is that it happened 2,000 years ago. So it really doesn't bear any weight in how we make our decisions these days, or it's not anything that's going to be happening in the future. All of this has been taking place in the past, so not a big deal. But based on the Greek, based on the way it's termed, this is my conclusion after getting all the rest of the information. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you have any questions, just leave some comments.